Hey, it's Figure Hunter, and up today is a full review for the Whoop 3.0 strap. I have done some in-depth heart rate accuracy tracking when tracking it on a CrossFit workout. As we always say, everything on this channel, Fit Gear Hunter YouTube channel and the fitgearhunter.com website associated with it, everything we do is to track and test devices for the purpose of CrossFit training and high-intensity interval training. So if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. Please consider subscribing for more because there's a lot of other reviews coming out. Double Under Wonder, the jump rope, as well as the wrist straps, as well as Sunto 7 has actually got some updates that are coming down the pipe. The Polar Vantage M2, the Polar Ignite 2, so lots and lots of testing coming out. And so what we're going to do today in the review right now is we're going to look primarily at the app. I already looked at the accuracy of the heart rate, and we're going to put descriptions down below so you can see the accuracy when worn on the wrist, when worn on the forearm, and when worn on the bicep. So we basically did this three-part series of Whoop versus the Open when CrossFit announced it as the wearable of CrossFit to say, can it keep up with the intensity of a CrossFit workout when worn on the wrist or the forearm or the bicep? Is it giving accurate information? Because I've already reviewed the device and I found it was not. So we're going to look at a lot of the health and wellness details today to be able to evaluate what are some of the other benefits it tracks, and also how does it look at a workout? How does it track the intensity of a workout? So we're going to go through it just in a few parts. And just looking at the workout tracking and the details you get there, as well as the app just overall, as well as the strain scores, as well as the sleep scores, because it just boils down to those primary things. You have, the strain throughout the day, the recovery that you've experienced in a night's sleep, as well as the sleep score. So we're going to look at those things. Please consider watching the other videos on the optical heart rate accuracy when tracking a CrossFit workout. As I said in that video, and I say it every time and over again, if you're going to buy the Whoop and you really want to get good information, do not wear it on the wrist. You absolutely have to get a bicep strap if you want to have any accuracy in tracking the intensity of your workout. When I tested it on the Whoop, the Open 21.1 as well as 5 other workouts, it came in at 46% accurate. That means it missed 54% of the intensity of the workout. So it missed more than it actually got right. So don't wear it there. We got 75% accuracy on the forearm as well as 80% accuracy on the bicep. And even there's times where you can see that it would have gotten a little bit higher score if you hadn't had a couple of off numbers in there. So with that, let's look at the device hands-on. I'll show you the regular strap and the bicep strap, the charging puck, as well as the charging cable. Super simple stuff. Just look at a hands-on of the things themselves. All right, so what can we see in simple terms? Again, it is a very simple design, very simple device. This is the bicep band, so it's considerably bigger. You actually have the little connecting ports. You have the optical heart rate sensor on the back, and you have a simple clasp system. So you're basically going to pop that open, and you can loosen it. This is obviously if you're wearing it on the wrist. It's not really a problem to slide up your arm if you're wearing it on a bicep. That actually don't unclip it. You adjust the strap back here by either pulling in or pulling out, and then it sort of locks in place on itself with just this sort of rough edges, and it stays relatively tight. I do find I have to retighten after a period of time, and you snap it in place and you're off to go. You can double click on it to be able to check your battery, and it will tell you, how much battery you have life also on the app itself. The battery puck is actually a really neat design because it basically just slides on, and then you can check the battery here, and you can see it's got 1 bar, so a little bit low. And so you don't have to actually ever take the device off. It's a really cool design concept. You just charge this with a simple micro USB cable. This is the regular band, and the way you change it, I'm not going to get into too much of a detail, is you simply pop off this clip here, slide out this strap, and you do the reverse for putting it back in place. So there, and then you slide this through. It's not always the easiest just to thread the needle and get it to go through the way you might want it to be, sort of quick and easy. But either way, that's the device. Snaps in place, locks, slide the puck on, you're off to charging. You don't actually have to take the device off, so you're never losing any data. Again, a concept I really like. Let's talk about some of the other aspects now. Okay, so like I said, it's a very simple device, mechanically sort of a simple thing. A lot of people like that. Conceptually, I think it's fantastic. I actually just wish they would add a vibration to it so you could actually have an alarm, because I have to have a vibration-based alarm. But either way, the accuracy thing is sort of a bust for me on the heart rate tracking, intensity tracking side, but I still think there's a lot of value in the wellness side. So let's look at some of the wellness, and we're going to start with how they evaluate the workouts. Now, a lot of this was in those other videos, but we're going to look at how it shows and displays the workouts, how you start a workout, and the details there. Let's take a look. Okay, so what do we see? So this is the basic platform and layout. I'm just going to touch on the overview of how the app works. So at the top, you see the main things of focus. You have the overview, which just shows a summary of the two main things for the day, plus a circle ring score style. Then you have your strain numbers, which is your activity throughout the day coupled with the workout. Your recovery numbers, which will show, statistics there, and we'll dive into more in a little bit later. And your sleep numbers, where you can see details on sleep by clicking into any of these. In any of these features, you can scroll up to see features over the course of a week. So strain scores, this calorie scores, strain scores, average heart rate throughout the week, the recovery scores in different aspects, and the sleep aspects tracking across the week's time frame. So let's just look at the strain when you look at just the specifics of how hard a workout was coupled with how hard a day was. And let's talk a little bit about how it looks at those things. The first thing is it calculates your strain evaluation off of your average heart rate throughout the day and estimation for calories burned, but it's not looking at the heart rate variability when it's calculating the day's strain. So if you compare this to Garmin's Body Battery will be evaluating your stress level throughout the day, and that will effectively show the amount of strain in an alternate term on your body throughout the day versus just the exercise workout. So this is more heart rate based in how it calculates your workout, and you can see that over time. You can see the days when you had higher strain days, higher average heart rates throughout the day, and higher average calorie burns throughout the day over the course of a week. But the most often you're just going to look at the average daily strain to see how hard you pushed your body that day. So that's where it's going to most often just assess how hard you pushed yourself that day, but a lot of it is going to be based in the workout itself. And this is how it looks. You go into your activity for the workout. This was actually 21.3 and 21.4 the first time I did it. So you can see, the warm up in the beginning. If I tried to put my finger as I'm recording on any of these places, it will not give you the heart rate at any point in time. You have to go to the app on the website for that. But you can see the tracking of the overall time. You can see the general details down below: calories, average heart rate, max heart rate, duration. So within this, it does not, and you have some user input aspects on the right side. But one of the things I don't like about this aspect is it doesn't show heart rate zones, how much time you spent in upper level zones. It will show that on the website, but it doesn't show it here. So that's a little bit unfortunate because I think that's useful information. All you have is just these static numbers. If I click at any point all over the screen, I'm not getting any kind of response. So that's basically how it summarizes. That's how it shows you the difficulty of the workout that day and how it couples it with the difficulty or the amount of strain you put on your body throughout the day itself. And you can track it over the course of a number of days. You can turn the stats on and off. But that's how it evaluates the intensity of the workouts coupled with the busyness of the day. Okay, so obviously we can't see, we can't dive into the actual heart rate, but on the website, and I'm not going to show that in this video now, there are a lot of other videos about the Whoop device, but on the website you can see the time, your heart rate over time, and it is possible to upload your Whoop activities to Strava. And Strava, you can export the activity if you have some sort of analytical software that you like to work with. But either way, you can see simple summary information as well as the strain score for the workouts themselves. You can easily start a workout and it will pick up and automatically track workouts, although it will also pick up and automatically track things that aren't workouts where your heart rate is a little bit elevated. So let's look at the more important aspects of Whoop, because if we do sort of honestly face the fact that some of the heart rate, or a lot of the heart rate tracking accuracy, even on the Bicep, is not as accurate as other devices if you're just wearing a chest strap or even an armband. And I'll say that right now, the Polar Verity Sense and the Polar OH1 are optical heart rate trackers when worn on the Bicep, and they are getting high 90s accuracy. when tracking on a CrossFit or high intensity interval workouts. Across like 30 workouts, I tested each of them, or 15 each. So high accuracy is there. So it's not that, it is the device. It is the Whoop device that is not getting the accuracy. So please be full aware of that. But let's look at the wellness benefits, because that is a lot of conceptually what goes into it. So we're going to look at recovery and sleep and some of the aspects there, and then come back together for a final discussion. So how does it look at things from the wellness side? Recovery and sleep are the two main dynamics. We already talked about the strain dynamics. So recovery and sleep are two primary components of how it's evaluating. Now, let's talk first about the recovery. The recovery is an evaluation recorded through your sleep. It's taking your sleep score, your respiratory rate, your resting heart rate, and your heart rate variability throughout the night. So it's assessing, similar to Garmin's body battery and similar to Polar's nightly recharge, some basic stats to give you an estimated amount of recovery for facing the next day's workouts, the next day's life. This is the only time it's really tracking the heart rate variability, at least statistically, applying it to some useful information. So this is a static number. It'll stay this number throughout the day because it's only evaluating it through the night to give you an assessment of how recovered you are through sleep only. So again, that's important to note. It is taking some basic aspects. It does work in respiratory rate. Polar, obviously, in their nightly recharge, evaluates respiratory rate as well as heart rate variability in the overall nightly recharge evaluation. They also take into account the beat-to-beat intervals and some other aspects when they evaluate the recovery at night. Garmin obviously takes into account heart rate variability all the time. So the amount of low heart, or higher heart rate variability, therefore more recovery while you're sleeping, and the low heart rate variability, therefore more strain and stress throughout the day. So you can see an ongoing, continuous stream of information for how recovering, how much recovery you're needing or how much recovery you've received overnight. On the sleep side, it's a couple of aspects. I have found the sleeps. So basically, what I did there is I just clicked into the main number on the left that says 6 hours and 33 minutes. It gives you a sleep score up top of 71% based on some of the components that we'll see in a second. So you click on that hours of sleep, it'll show you your sleep throughout the night. You can scroll down and see it just in summary form in all these different pieces. Or if you want to click on any of the words, like where you see awake sort of grayed out, you can click on that and it'll show you the awake periods. You can see the light periods, you can see the REM, and you can see the periods of deep sleep. I found it to be very accurate or very similar to Garmin on the Phoenix 6 line because they have the advanced sleeping there, as well as Polar's sleep analysis of the nightly recharge. So you can see those basic components. It also does give you these statistical aspects in the top row or the middle row: time in bed, disturbances, efficiency, respiratory rate, and latency. Those are all aspects that you see in Polar's sleep study, not as much in Garmin, although it's very similar on the stages. So you can click on any one of these things, you can see the disturbances, the efficiency, and you get a little blurb down below, the respiratory rate and the latency. So again, it does a really good job at doing a thorough evaluation of sleep, compared to Garmin's and Polar's. Polar's is, I would say, just as thorough. Garmin's is almost as thorough if we're comparing two primary sleep tracking devices that do a good job. The percentage, the sleep performance I found to be great. When I had a bad night's sleep, it told me I had a bad night's sleep, which is fantastic. I want to know it. And when I had a good night's sleep, it gave me better scores. Now, if you look on the middle of the page to the right, it says sleep needed. Well, what is that? This is where they say what aspects apply to different pieces of what calculates the sleep needed. So you have your baseline of 7 hours and 28 minutes. That's just sort of an ongoing thing. The recent strain of the day, so how hard the last day was, as well as the sleep debt, which is really interesting that they're assessing. Obviously I do run at a significant deficit, only getting 5 to 6, hours of sleep a night. And then recent naps, another interesting thing. If you take a nap, it'll actually lower your needed sleep. So it's really interesting in how they approach the sleep needed. Now, obviously 9 hours and 14 minutes is nearly impossible for me on a regular basis, but at least it's interesting to see how they're calculating some of these things, the sleep debt and the recent strain, into the overall sleep needed. So those are all valuable information pieces for tracking both your sleep as well as sleep needed. So looking at those two main aspects on the timeline, over the course of a week, you have the recovery scores, heart rate variability over time, resting heart rate, and respiratory rate. These, obviously heart rate variability is just your heart rate variability as tracked during sleep. So that's what that's based on. But you can see, like they show in the commercials, time in the green, time in the yellow, time in the red when your body's more worn down. It is really, they lay it out incredibly well, and it is really interesting to see how they do so, or how they use the information. Same thing on the sleep. You can see your performance over time when you can sort of see that you're getting terrible sleep at different periods of time, the amount of time you slept versus the amount of time that you needed to sleep to have absolute perfect recovery, so to speak, and the amount of time in bed, which just shows a comparison of how much time you're sleeping versus how much time you're just laying there, not yet asleep. So this just shows all the main aspects of the recovery and the sleep and how it's calculated and assessed. You also have on the bottom, just to touch on a couple things before we wrap up the app exploration to finalize the review and give some recommendations or thoughts. You can see calculations over time, over the course of a week versus, basically your recovery as well as your strain and how those two flow together. At the very bottom, there are other tabs. So the main tab is this little W tab, which is like a clipboard, and it has your coaching. I'm not going to go into the aspects of the coaching, and basically they can tell you what your strain score should be on a certain day to be able to push your intensity and your fitness to new levels. So I'll give you a recommendation on hitting optimal strain, as well as like a range of optimal strain for your workout, so how intense your workout should be. But it does give you a weekly assessment. Once you've used the device for a prolonged period of time, you can get an assessment. Now, I had not at this point used it long enough. You can see at the top, this is for more recent, but it'll give you an assessment report of sleep breakdown, just a lot of useful or interesting, at least, information. Mine is blank because I went on vacation and took it off for a period of time. But this is just a little bit more insight for how you can get more understanding of data and how the data can apply to improving. One thing I forgot to mention earlier in the video is if you wanted to start a workout, you'd have to go to, and you can click the chart up here, and you can see any of the months. So if I went into today, I could start an activity. This is where you would start it. It's not linked to me now, but you would start an activity here, and you could turn the strain coach on or off that way, and you start your activity, and then you're tracking at the top right. You can change the different sport you're doing and hit start. It'll do a 3, 2, 1 countdown, and you're off to the races to make sure that you track the full workout. Obviously, if you just do the automatic workout tracking, you have to be more intensely working out for at least 15 minutes. I like to track a whole CrossFit class, so I like to track it during the warm-up and during the transition time to the Metcon, so just track the whole thing. So I always want to make sure I start the activity in the app and then throw my phone somewhat within Bluetooth range off to the side and track it that way, so that I track every bit and I'm not just dependent on it tracking or estimating, if my heart rate came down too much in between the warm-up or the lifting session and the Metcon, all that sort of stuff. So that is the app in a nutshell. And let's go back for a summary. So there you have it. There's the summary of the app and the wellness benefits, the recovery benefits, the strain benefits, just in generally throughout the day, as well as the sleep benefits. We looked at the heart rate accuracy, which is a fundamental aspect if you're wanting to track intensity of workouts. But looking at the device, what do I really think about it? In simple terms, I'm not going to keep the device for personal use. Now, I also depend on a watch. I want to have the ability to see text messages when they pop up. I want to see the time. I want to have an all-in-one device. I need to have a vibration-based alarm to wake me up because my wife wakes up after I do, so I need to be able to get up early. I need to have more of an all-in-one. So it somewhat lost me there, but I almost like the concepts of the sleep tracking and the overall recovery tracking. So it tracks that heart rate variability at night, so your recovery throughout the day. So it gives useful information, and I really like how they displayed it. It's somewhat simple, it's pretty, it's well put together, but I can't get past the accuracy thing because I don't want to wear it on my bicep all the time at all. I don't find it to be comfortable, and I don't want to fidget with switching every workout every day to a bicep band and back to a wristband. Now, obviously, I'm tracking multiple devices, and so one more thing to have to fidget with, and I didn't find it to be like super easy, is not the most fun for me to add to my life. So for those reasons, I'm not keeping it, but I do think that if you wear it on the bicep for your workouts, it is useful in the information. You just have to be aware that your strain score is not going to be as high as it would be if you're tracking off a chest strap, and somewhat considerably so. So we miss 20%, or if it's 80 to even maybe 85% accurate on the bicep, you're missing a healthy portion that is of valuable information that other tracking, Polar, Garmin, Coros, even Suunto and some of their devices will track your impact to your training load and the impact to your body, and it'll accurately track the intensity you're putting on your body over a period of time to be able to evaluate and see, are you keeping the intensity high this week versus what you did in the last few weeks, to be able to track if you're pushing your body to new heights and new limits. That's the point of the zone 4 and 5 and the zone 5, like the most peak heart rate zone tracking, is because you want to be able to see that you're pushing your body just as hard this week as you did in past weeks to be able to evaluate, are you pushing your fitness to new levels? So with that, take it all for what it's worth. So that is the Whoop Device 3.0 Fit Gear Hunter. Thanks so much for watching.